My name is Jennifer Gunn. I'm the director of the Institute for Advanced Study. I'm also a faculty member in the program in the history of science, technology, and medicine. And I'm very happy to welcome my colleagues from other interdisciplinary centers here today, and all of you who are interested in the Interdisciplinary Doctoral Fellowship. Before we get started, I just want to remind us that no matter where we're zooming in from, we are all residing on traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of Indigenous people. And the Twin Cities campus of the University of Minnesota resides on Dakota land, ceded in the treaties of 1837 and 1851. And we acknowledge that this place has a complex and layered history. So a land acknowledgement is one of the ways in which we work to educate the campus and community about this land and our relationships with it and with each other. The Institute for Advanced Study and our partners are committed to ongoing efforts to recognize, support, and advocate for American Indian nations and peoples. So as we are all used to now, I'll open with the Zoom instructions and tell you what our format is going to be for today, and remind you that this session is being recorded. It is a regular Zoom session, not a Zoom webinar, so you can use the chat feature. And at the end of the session, we're going to have breakout rooms for each center, and those sessions cannot be recorded because of the way Zoom works. So feel free to use the chat. Also feel free to use the hands up to, if you have a question. If you would like subtitles, click on the live transcript box and show subtitles. And for those of you on mobile devices, if you don't already know, that's not in the bottom bar, it's in the upper right corner. We're going to start with a return engagement by Jennifer Powers to talk about what makes a good IDF application. And then we'll have a brief question and answer period after Jennifer's talk. So please use the raise hand function if you want to ask Jennifer a question. And I would encourage you, please don't ask a specific question about your project, but rather more general questions about the IDF and its process. Following the question and answer, Jennifer's presentation and the question and answer portion of that, each of the 5 centers listed on your screen will be making about a 5-minute presentation. And we're not going to have questions after each presentation, but at the end of all 5 presentations, you will be putting everybody into breakout rooms so that you can go to the center that you're most interested in and ask your questions. And so to that end, we ask that, during the presentation part of this workshop or info session, that you indicate in the chat what center you would like to be in a breakout room with, and that will enable Abby Travis. Thank you, Abby, our organizer and tech support, to sort everybody into the appropriate breakout rooms. Okay, so it is my great pleasure to introduce Jennifer Powers, who is a professor in the Department of Ecology, Evolution, and Behavior, and also in plant and microbial biology. And she's served on the IDF Fellowship Committee more times than can be counted. And I just want to point out, she's actually from a relatively numerate discipline, so that's saying a lot. Her research includes ecological studies focused on the tropical dry forest biome and interdisciplinary collaborations to understand the social and economic dimensions of tropical forest restoration. So without further ado, Professor Powers.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for the invitation and the opportunity to be here with all of you today. And I really just have a few simple hints, I guess, for how you all can write the most compelling IDF application that you can. And then I'll take any questions. And first, I just wanted to say that that again, I've been on the IDF committee more times than I can count. And usually, when you get an email requesting service to your department or the university, you always think, oh no. But whenever I get the invitation to be on the IDF panel, I think, oh, good, once again. And that is because reading these proposals is always one of the highlights of my year. They are creative, and I continually have to stop myself and think, wow, I never thought you could combine, physics and dance in such a way. They're just so fun to read. And so with that, these are just a few very simple recommendations to you all for how you can write the most compelling proposal as possible. And the first suggestion, I repeated 3 times, avoid jargon, avoid jargon, avoid jargon. We're all trained by now, in our sort of narrowly defined disciplines. And the IDF proposals, you really need to, your proposals will be read by a very broad, by a panel of faculty with very broad expertise. And so it is incumbent upon you, it is really your responsibility to make sure that any person from any discipline can read your proposal and understand it. There's words that I don't even recognize as jargon in my own discipline of forest ecology. But when other people hear it, they say, oh, what do you mean by structure and function? We think of structure and function very differently in sociology than, you might in forest ecology. A really great way to sort of a barometer or test of whether or not you've written in a way that a non-specialist can understand it is to have a non-specialist read it, and that was my last suggestion. So the next recommendation I have is to really read very carefully the call for proposals and what the IDF evaluation committee is looking for. And so to that, you need to really very, very clearly articulate which disciplines you are combining in very, very simple language. And I say no cheating. So what do I mean by this? There are disciplines that just sort of naturally go together. Again, I'm an ecologist. Ecology relies on statistics. You can't really think of doing an ecological research without involving statistics in some format. So an IDF that is proposing to combine ecology and statistics is really not that compelling. An IDF proposal that was proposing to include physics and math, those would not be ranked high unless you can really demonstrate why what you're doing is combining different disciplines, is truly interdisciplinary. So, if you're, like I said, if you're trying to combine physics and dance, that might be pretty interdisciplinary or novel. If you're combining physics with math, it's really going to be incumbent on you to explain why this is really a new way of looking at things, and you're really combining different disciplines. Another thing that you should stress is to convince the panel that the work you're proposing would not be possible without this funding. If your mentor or your advisor is collaborating closely with a faculty member or a mentor in the proposed center, that's not the most compelling evidence that this collaboration wouldn't happen in absence of the IDF funding. So really the committee is taking those instructions very, very carefully and really trying to parse out, are these different disciplines that are being combined? Is this a project that simply wouldn't happen without this funding? It's really your responsibility to convince us of that. And then I think, again, I'm making this brief, but the last thing is to really get others excited about this work. You know, how is it that you are, what are these novel insights into both fields that you're combining in this interdisciplinary study that would not have been possible without looking at things in this way? The best proposals I've found are the ones that I have to put them down when I'm reading it and say, oh my God, I've never thought about this in this way. I think the very best proposals are ones that cause me to stop in my tracks and think, wow, I need to reevaluate how I thought things work. So again, just to be really, really brief, avoid jargon, make it convince us that it's novel and that you could not have done it otherwise. Okay, with that, I think I'm out of time. So I'll take any questions briefly, if there are some.
Great, thank you so much. And if you want to be using the raise hand function, we have time for a couple of questions. And I'm trying to scan everybody at once. And Lauren Rurald.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for the really helpful information. The thing that I'm wondering about is the point you make about convincing the panel that this project simply wouldn't be possible without the funding. Is there equal room to make the argument that having the institutional connection is what's valuable? You know, for those of us who are maybe working with people who are on the same campus, so it's not necessarily like an issue of having the money to travel somewhere, but not having that intellectual connection. And that's what this mentorship provides. Is that equally compelling to the panel as like a financial argument?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think you can, I think there's different ways you can make that argument. In some cases, your affiliation with a center gives you access to resources like data sets that would not have been accessible to you otherwise. In many cases, having it, like if having the intellectual sort of environment that is different from what your graduate program offers. Being immersed in a center that provides a very different type of training or a very different intellectual environment, I think that's a compelling reason. If your advisor or your mentor has a strong collaboration with someone in that center, then you think, well, that's not so compelling. But if, again, it gives you access to resources, if it gives you access to, a whole new network of people, so that's a resource. So, being able to establish a strong collaboration with someone who has a very different set of collaborators, to me, that would be compelling. So I hope that answered your question.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to ask one.
Okay.
Jennifer, there's one from
Catherine. Yes, go ahead. Sorry, Catherine.
No, you're fine. Hi, thank you all for doing this. My question is related to the number of disciplines that your project connects. Is there an advantage or a disadvantage to referencing or pulling in more disciplines compared to less? Like, is there a strength to having an application that says these two disciplines that you wouldn't normally think of go really well together versus this project can pull on maybe 4 or 5, but then not as strongly?
I wouldn't say that it's sort of that your success rate or your success probability scales with the number of disciplines. I think it's really how, it's how these, how taking an interdisciplinary perspective is sort of mutually strengthens both or more disciplines that you're thinking of combining. so I don't think it's necessarily like more is better. Like I'll do physics and dance and history and medicine. No, I think it's really what novel insights, how does taking two different perspectives and fusing them, like what are the mutually informative strengths of an interdisciplinary approach. I think that's more, spend your time really thinking about what am I getting from taking from moving outside my the comfort zone of my discipline, more than like, oh, more is better. That's what I would say.
Any more questions?
I see one more from Valeria.
Okay.
Yes.
Valeria.
Hi. So I know that the proposal is meant to be 2 pages plus the 100-word abstract. I'm wondering how much granularity is the proposal requiring as far as methods, methodology, and all of that? Should we go deeper in that, or are you more concerned with the interdisciplinary nature of our projects?
Well, that's a really good question, and 2 pages is a strong limitation on what you can say, right? And I think that so I don't think there's one recipe, but I think that the most important point is that how you spend your time, or how you spend that 2-page space, really is understandable to many to people from different disciplines. So if you require some machine and you spend, a page describing what this machine does, that is probably not, that's probably too granular, right? I think you want to make a case that, make the case for the interdisciplinarity, make the case for what is novel and what is exciting, and then and then maybe touch on the exact methods, unless the methods are really central to what you're doing. So I guess that's a tough and a tricky question, and 2 pages is not a lot of space to answer it in. So I don't think there's a recipe, I guess I would say.
I want to jump in and make a clarification. Valeria, you said 2 pages plus the abstract. No. The abstract is included in your 2 pages. The 100-word abstract is part of your 2 pages. So.
Oh, thank you for that. Okay, good to know. Thank you.
I think Juliette was going to say something too. Is that right?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, I put my question in the chat, but I was going to ask the question, a couple of years ago, the criteria changed so that you're not allowed to graduate immediately. And I'm wondering if you could speak to this question of the timeliness of like, do you still think that the fellowship is, so that you need the fellowship to do the work now? Can you talk about that, or like what the graduation what that means for folks?
So I'm not and so I haven't I haven't looked at those sort of criteria recently. So maybe Abby or Jennifer could speak more directly to that. But I think what the intent with that that new criterion is to ensure that people at that the IDF isn't something you do in your last year of graduate studies, where you're saying, oh, okay, I did 4 years of forest ecology and now I'm going to tack on a economics chapter to my research. I think the intent is to not necessarily prioritize, but to enable projects that might seem a little projects at an earlier stage, right? So graduate students who have been at the university several years and work that is either more exploratory, or I don't know how to say more risky, but not, okay, again, like I've done 4 years of forest ecology, now let's slap on some economics, but work that is really, that takes this interdisciplinary perspective, much sort of earlier on in the process of working on your graduate studies. Does that make sense? And I'll
Yes.
let Jennifer
Yeah,
join in.
Yes, absolutely. I think the intent is that that you want to do a genuinely interdisciplinary project, and that earlier on you get the advantage of the guidance and mentoring to make that really happen. Also, just as I understand it, the grad school rules are that a doctoral dissertation fellowship, the DDF, is your last university-wide funding, and but the IDF is intended to be earlier, so you can apply for a DDF after you've had an IDF, but not the other way around. There are a bunch of more questions for Professor Powers in the chat, and I will ask you if you would be kind enough to respond in writing so that we can move on to have each center present. So keep your eye on the chat, and I will go ahead, and don't forget, put in the chat what center you would like to be sorted into for the breakout rooms. And so I will start briefly to tell you about the IAS, and then we will go to Karen Brown, Juliette Chaboulier. Oh, sorry. Then we'll go to Lindsay Fabian, Karen Brown, Juliette Chaboulier, and Kathy Jordan. So what's cool about the IAS? It's an interdisciplinary community of scholars and programming. And in a typical semester, we have faculty and interdisciplinary doctoral fellows from usually 2 to 3 colleges and at least 1 system campus, plus, according to space, visiting scholars and community scholars and artists. We have weekly fellow gatherings to present and get feedback on your works in progress. You get an office, a computer and printer if you need it, access to the coffee pot and fridge, and such corridor conversations or informal tea time as you want to join or organize. This semester, we're working out our kind of mix of in-person and the virtual, but so far we've had tamales and tiramisu and tres leche on the plaza, so we're making it work in a very food-friendly way. You also get $2,500 in professional development funds, and we typically have workshops or labs with people from the University of Minnesota Press, the libraries, Dash, and we often have writing hunkers and occasionally writing groups where people are sharing their writing. This semester, we have IAS Thursday programs every week, and that's usually a pretty exciting mix of scholars. And so coming up this semester, we have Devarian Baldwin, author of In the Shadow of the Ivory Tower, How Universities Are Plundering Our Cities, on how to build an abolitionist university, and NASA scientist Kate Marvel on climate change, among many others. So what you need to know is we expect you to participate in the IS community. We can help you find a mentor. I was supposed to be sharing screen and showing you our website, but I will just say, because it's quicker, on the IAS website under opportunities, there is a section called Interdisciplinary Doctoral Fellowships. It has information, including links to a list of people who can be mentors. And I also encourage you to email Susanna Smith, our managing director, or me to ask about that if you have any questions or need help thinking through the mentor question. And the one last thing I'll say is that the IAS typically gets more, oh, thank you, Abby. The IAS typically gets more applications than we can nominate. We normally nominate about 7 to 8 people, and we have had as many as five IDFs in a single year. And every once in a while, we've also had 0. The selection process is done by a committee made up of representatives from the IAS Advisory Board. And we would love to have you at the IAS. And we also understand that this is a strategic decision for you about where to go, especially if you have a mentor that might be attached to more than one center. So thank you, and I hope you'll join us in the breakout room after all the presentations to ask more questions. So it's my pleasure now to introduce Lindsay Fabian, who is the Training and Grants Manager for the Minnesota Population Center, and she will be talking about 2 centers.
Thank you. Okay, I just shared my screen. You're seeing it, is this right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yes, and thanks for the introduction. I am Lindsay Fabian, and I'm here to represent both the Minnesota Population Center and the Life Course Center. And I'll start with the Life Course Center. So this is a NIH-funded center to study changes over the lifetime. So from birth to death, all of the pathways, including time, age, biography, and history. And we look at all sorts of things about where you live, work, play in your community, and beyond. So our center has 3 major research themes, and you can see them here on your screen. The first one is about population trends. And there's a lot of funding right now in cognitive functioning in Alzheimer's disease and Alzheimer's disease related dementias. So our faculty and staff are writing grants around Alzheimer's disease, including other types of morbidity and mortality trends across the lifespan. Our second research theme that our faculty focus on are disparity mechanisms. So things around structural racism and healthy aging and unequal distribution of factors about income and health behaviors. And the third one is about the interrelationships of work, family, and the community, and how everything is interconnected and things impact from early childhood through later life outcomes. So those are the main themes that our interdisciplinary center focuses on for the Life Course Center. The other center I'd like to talk about is the Minnesota Population Center. This center has been around for over 20 years, and we're interdisciplinary as well, with faculty from all over the university doing high quality population-based research. So big data type things that look at population studies and population health using quantitative and cutting edge statistics. We have 5 research themes that we focus on at the MPC, and you can see them here on your screen. So if any of these topics interest you or your work can cross over any of these themes, please talk to me later as well in the breakout sessions, and I'd love to hear about your ideas. So the benefits of having an IDF at either one of our centers are that you get to be embedded in the intellectual environment of the center and close mentoring and research with all of the faculty and staff that we have. We also have weekly professional development and weekly academic seminars through both the LCC and the MPC. And IDFs have access to all sorts of other member services and resources that we offer, like travel support, grant writing support, access to big data sets, and you get a computer and an office space, and same that Jennifer said, access to printing and unlimited coffee and tea. We also offer a $2,500 stipend or access to funds for travel and data and anything you need to be successful in your IDF. We also have a cohort of our trainees, our pre-doc and our postdoc trainees, and the IDF fellow gets included in that. And we call them scholar development meetings, where we talk about other professional development things in a smaller group, like CV and resume writing, networking, elevator speech, how to give a good presentation. So you would be invited to participate in that group as well. And really the biggest benefit that you'll hear throughout the time today is the opportunity to work closely with a faculty mentor and get embedded in our center. And we bring in speakers from all across the university and the country and the world to talk about their research with us. Here's just a snapshot from our website as well. We have both on the LCC and the MPC pages, details about IDFs with us and how to move forward with an application. So if you are interested in either population studies or life course aging research, here are the email addresses. Please get in touch with us sooner rather than later. I'm happy to work with you and talk about research fit and help you choose a mentor and see if the interdisciplinary perspective you have matches with us, and we'd love to do matchmaking with you. We also have a committee that looks at the benefit of the applicant to be with us and how it would be a mutually beneficial relationship, and then we select and endorse those applicants to move forward with the graduate school letter and completing the application. We do have current and past IDFs I'd be happy to connect you with if you'd like to speak with any of them. My email address is there, as well as the 2 generic center email addresses to reach someone at our center. Lastly, just please become a member. We have free membership. Both of our centers approve new members monthly, and we'd love to have you join as student members of our organization. So hope to see you later today. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks so much, Lindsay. And I now am happy to introduce Karen Brown, who is the director of the Interdisciplinary Center for the Study of Global Change and also co-chair of the Masters in Development Practice program in the Humphrey School. So Karen, take it away.
Thanks, Jennifer. It's great to see everybody here today. As Jennifer said, I'm Karen Brown, and I direct the Interdisciplinary Center for the Study of Global Change. We're typically known as ICGC. Next slide, please. So this is just to give you a sense of the broad mission of ICGC to see if it seems like a good fit with the research you're interested in doing as an IDF. So we are a campus-wide center. We are broadly interdisciplinary and cross-cultural. We have folks from 6 different colleges and schools across the university who are members of our community. And we have faculty and students. I'll say more about those groups in a moment. But what all the folks share in common is a commitment to research and education related to the Global South and global change. Next slide, please. So this gives you a sense of some of the research areas that our scholars are engaged with. The core of everyone's research and education at ICGC is global social justice, as I mentioned before. And these are some of the broad areas that we focus on. This is not exhaustive. Your research doesn't have to fit one of these specific themes, but this gives you a sense of the types of work that ICGC supports and that our scholars undertake. We think very broadly about issues of peace, conflict, and security globally, transforming international development, thinking about the connections between sustainability and justice in the environmental realm, and reimagining identities, communities, and cultures. And the themes are some examples of some of the work that's being done. Again, this is a very broad understanding of these themes, and your work could easily fit even if it's not listed as a theme. Next slide, please. So because we are focused on interdisciplinarity, we invite in scholars from across the university. We currently have about 65 graduate fellows and more than 80 affiliated faculty members from 6 colleges and over 30 disciplines and programs. One thing that distinguishes ICGC is that we have a sustained community. So our doctoral fellows are affiliated with us from the time they begin till the time they graduate. And then also many of them as alumni continue to work with us. And our faculty also have graduate faculty appointments in the center and long-term affiliations. We operate on an interdisciplinary cohort model. So as an IDF, you would be part of an incoming cohort of other visiting scholars and doctoral fellows who are coming in that same year. And each year, we have a set of teaching faculty working with us from various disciplines. A couple of opportunities IDFs have taken advantage of. We have a Ways of Knowing introductory course each fall, which focuses on interdisciplinary knowledge production. And we also have a doctoral research workshop, which emphasizes the development of your own research proposal and grant proposals. And for example, one of our current IDFs is enrolled in that doctoral research workshop this fall. We have a series of research circles, and we'll have a new set coming on later this year that are run by our faculty and our graduate students that focus on various topics. Next slide, please. We have a range of people we work with across the university. We're part of the Global Programs and Strategy Alliance, which is the international programs unit of the university. We have formal partnerships with all the colleges mentioned here, the Weizmann Museum, and we have a long-term international partnership in South Africa with the University of the Western Cape that's funded by the Andrew Mellon Foundation. And you will, as an IDF, interact with fellows and faculty who are visiting from the University of the Western Cape and have the opportunity to participate in activities there. And we're also developing a new set of programs with partners at HBCUs, including Morehouse and Spelman colleges. Next slide, please. So what do we do at ICGC, and what would you have the opportunity to participate in as an IDF? We have a Friday Brown Bag Talk series. Each Friday at noon, our fellows present on their work in progress, and as an IDF, you would present in that. I mentioned the research circles previously. We have a lot of other activities you can check out on our website. I've mentioned the partnerships. We also encourage you to propose your own activities. We have writing groups, we have reading groups, and we have various other activities that our students propose and that we help support the development of. Next slide, please. So the IDF process at ICGC is similar to what others have described. We have an internal deadline like others, and we take the materials that come in at that time, and our interdisciplinary committee reviews them and identifies those students whose applications will support to the graduate school. So we look internally at your application, and then we'll let you know the outcome of that committee review. We'd be excited to talk with any of you, to work with any of you. I'm happy to help you find a faculty mentor affiliated with ICGC. We have this great group of more than 80 faculty who are eligible for that mentor role. So please feel free to contact me with questions or to join the chat session later. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Karen. Okay. The next up is Juliette Chaboulier, who is professor of French and Italian and also the director of the Center for Premodern Studies. Juliette.
Hi, everybody. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. I can't see my slide. So the Center for Premodern Studies used to be known as the Consortium for the Study of the Premodern World. It was also known as the Center for Early Modern History, and it also included the Center for Medieval Studies. So as I said before, there's a salad of acronyms, and we just created one beautiful main dish recently called the Center for Premodern Studies. So one of the things that distinguishes us is that our approach is pre-disciplinary in the sense that we look at the history of all of the ideas we talk about today and some of the ideas we no longer talk about today. So our center is based on uniting over 70 faculty across the campus and beyond, who all work on historical questions or questions about modernity and its others. So students come to the consortium, as I said, to study theories of modernity, to consider archival or special collections research concerning historical topics. Many of our IDF fellows have engaged with the historical dimensions of a contemporary problem. And one of the benefits of our center, we're small but mighty. So we don't have a lot of the research resources that some of the bigger centers do, but we have a really great track record of getting IDFs. We have an average of 1 a year. We sometimes have 2, and occasionally we've had 0. But one of the things that I think is really good about our approach to historical questions is because we work on a very long stretch of history. So folks come to us who think about the invention of writing, and folks come to us who are interested in the 19th century aspects of slave trade. So we do a really, really broad swath, but because we're collaboratively focused and we have this fantastic network of about, like I said, 70 scholars and researchers, we are also about putting students into that network. We do all sorts of research groups, and we also encourage you to start a research group. And a lot of our IDFs come to the center because they want to be a part of our Thursday afternoon lecture series or our Friday afternoon brown bags. We've been doing them as boxed lunches, which is sad but yummy. and some of the other things we have, like research collaboratives, which you can see on our website. We offer our fellows about $1,500 worth of research and travel support, office space, access to that really great community. So there's a lot of serendipity that happens at our center. We offer you the opportunity to present your research in a public forum and also in some sort of I wouldn't call them semi-private, but more research-oriented forums. We have a couple of works in progress workshops that our fellows often engage with. And we also have access to some center-based support, some resources that IDF fellows can tap into. We love mentoring crazy interdisciplinary, what we call pre-disciplinary projects. We are expert at matching you with a mentor. So come see us, come to our breakout room, or get in touch with us well before that 18th October common deadline for centers, so we can help you find a mentor if you think that this might be a good fit for you.
Great. Thank you so much, Juliette. And remember to enter in the chat what group you'd like to go into. And last but not least is Kathy Jordan, who's a professor of pediatrics and associate director for leadership and education at the Institute on the Environment. Kathy.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hopefully you are seeing my slide. Is that correct? Excellent. Okay. So Institute on the Environment is a cross-campus interdisciplinary institute at the university, system-wide. We are proud of being not academia as usual. We're meant to cross disciplines and also connect what's happening inside the university with partners and experts and industries and nonprofits, et cetera, outside of the university walls. Our mission is to lead the way toward a future in which people and the environment prosper together. We at INE talk about the INE community, and what we mean by that is, one, we are referring to the 40 or so staff who are research scientists, sustainability educators, leadership development professionals, strategic and public interest communicators, and our operational staff who direct our development, communications, grants, and operations. So those are the building people over here on the St. Paul campus in the Learning and Environmental Sciences building. Well, we're also referring to an affiliate network of a couple hundred faculty, staff, and community professionals who are part of our programs for fellows who are advanced faculty or staff or community leaders. Another one for mid-career faculty who are called associates, also visiting scholars, and we also have educators who are faculty or staff at any level who are wearing their instructor hat. We're also referring to students in that INE community. So an IDF fellow, obviously, but we also have undergraduates, graduates, and postdocs with us from the Twin Cities and other campus, system campuses. They might be student workers or participants in our student experiential education cohorts or curricular offerings. These are all people that would be accessible to you as an IDF fellow. And one of the things I love to do is to introduce people to the INE community. So setting up, making virtual introductions and setting up informational interviews with just a huge variety of people that work with us here at the Institute. So INE has three core capabilities. We have our research wing, which is knowledge initiatives. That's where we're essentially trying to, solve questions that allow us to build a future where people and the planet prosper together. We also have leadership and education, which is the area that I direct, and that is the idea of building capacity in our students. We also extend down to K-12 to some degree and out into community leaders as well, but that's sort of building human capital. And then we have world-class storytelling. That's about storytelling about both knowledge and the people. And it's meant to inspire and offer solutions, inform decisions, and inform actions. We also prioritize our work around a set of priorities that we call impact goals. And we are in year 3 of a current focus on 1, safe drinking water, which has become a little bit less important to us because there's so many other water things going on campus, like the water network. Secondly, a just carbon neutral energy transition. And thirdly, sustainable land use. And so we think that if we bring together these awesome people who are, part of our INE community, along with our 3 core capabilities around research, education and leadership development, and storytelling, we can make real progress on these goals. This is sort of our theory of change. IDF proposals don't necessarily need to align perfectly with these impact goal priorities, but it does help to make that connection for us if it exists, because it helps us connect you to our work and to our people a little bit better. So here's what would be available to you if you were to come to INE as an IDF. We offer $2,000 in funding to be used for your research or travel or other things that would enhance your experience. We offer workspace on our St. Paul campus office in Learning Environmental Sciences, an opportunity to give public presentations, 1 or more, in our staff meeting or other venues. And we have a variety of trainings and meetings. So there's a training series for graduate students. There's also another, sometimes jointly with graduate students, but our early career associates also have a seminar and workshop series. Some of these are topical, some are more professional development oriented. You'd be welcome to be part of those. The opportunity to attend the research team, knowledge initiative staff meetings, or my team, leadership and education staff meetings, our monthly all staff meetings. And just, generally the events that INE does when we're in person, they tend to be a little bit more. And then we also have, through our graduate program, leadership development program, we have coaching available with community leaders that our IDF fellow would be welcome to be part of. So really our community is the big draw, I think, and you can access that in so many different ways. I should mention that we also have good food when we are in person. It's a good place to graze. So regarding making an application, we require the application form, 2-page CV, research proposal, which is okay if it's not in super final form, but maybe your penultimate draft. Proof of IRB approval, if that is applicable to human subjects research, unofficial UMN grad transcript, a letter of support from an INE faculty member. It must be an INE fellow or an associate. And then a letter of support from your advisor, and your advisor and mentor should not be the same person unless you have also identified a second advisor or second mentor. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much to all of my colleagues and for these great presentations. And Abby is going to break us into individual center breakout room groups now. This part will not be recorded.